anyone that's watching this, if you don't belong to the PCA, uh, oh my gosh, go go to those events. If you don't have a coach, join Painter Growth. Like you have to get involved, because when I did that, like literally I could track my net worth on a graph, and I could show you the spike where it started, radically going up and to the right. And it's all related to coaching, education, community, those types of things.
What's up, everybody? Mike Rakeman here, founder of paintergrowth.com, and you're listening to the Painter Growth Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, because this episode is a banger. So it's something a little bit different, but I think that you are going to love it. So just the other day, I had an awesome conversation with my friend, Brandon Vaughn. Brandon Vaughn is the CEO of Hirebus. He recently, he didn't recently, but he had scaled up and exited Conquer Coaching, a multiple seven-figure coaching business for contractors and trades. He scaled up his painting company to, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on it right now, but something around $300,000 or $400,000 per month. Oh, sorry, actually that was up to $600,000 per month in 6 years. That's what it was. And now, most recently, he scaled up a new franchise that he launched called Wise Coatings, which does floor coatings and floor and garage epoxy for residential services. And they're about 1.2 million a month. They did that in less than 3 years. So we just sat down, had a great conversation. We covered a whole bunch of stuff from his growth, his past, what drives him. We talked about tactics and things like that. So you're going to get a ton of value out of it. So I really hope that you enjoy it, because I truly believe this is a special episode. So with that being said, tuck in and let's go.
Cool. But yeah, basically today we're just going to chat about your story, how you were able to overcome adversity, grow your paint, grow your
We're gonna peel back the layers of the onion, aren't we, Mike? I can already tell.
Yeah.
You're gonna try to make me cry. I can already get that vibe. You're gonna dig. You're gonna pick.
Let's
I'm an open
do
book,
it.
so I'll talk about anything. It's
I
been
love it.
been a crazy journey, but it's been a fun one too.
Yeah, I mean, where do we start? Just like Mary Poppins at the very beginning.
Yeah, that's right.
So let's just jump into it, man. We've got about an hour to hang out here today. So let's wind back the clock back to kind of the starting. So your father was running a home services, like home cleaning, gutter cleaning type of company,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Pretty
What
much window cleaning was the only thing that he was doing.
window cleaning?
Mhm.
Okay, cool. And what was the state of the business like at the time when he was running it?
Well, he started in 1978. He's been doing it a while. We actually sat down and did the math and realized that he had cleaned over 3.2 million windows in his lifetime, which was like kind of a crazy number. But he washed windows for nearly 40 years. Started, doing it way back when, and it was a family-owned business. So that meant that all of us kids got to work in the business for free or for near child labor rates.
That's how you got a million windows cleaned or whatever, however many windows it was.
That's right. Yeah. So pretty much, he'd pay us 5 cents a screen to come out and help. And then I just really enjoyed it. So I liked working with my dad. I had an amazing childhood. I homeschooled through high school. So the day, when I was 13, I dropped out of regular school, did homeschooling, and then worked with my dad 40 hours a week, pretty much from 13 on. So that was kind of like my childhood was, mostly working. And it was amazing. His business at that time looked like Monday through Thursday, 4 days a week, sometimes 5 days, where we would just go out, wash windows. He would do all the work. We would divide and conquer the day. And I got a chance to see and interact with all of his customers. And I think that was actually one of the best parts of that, was getting to know these older ones, them talking to me. It helped not make me a total weirdo homeschooled kid. And it was really cool, to just kind of witness that as a path for growth. And I'm like, this is what I want to do for my life. I want to own my own window cleaning business too. And, just very much follow in dad's footsteps. So the day I turned 18, I went out and got my own business license, started my own window cleaning property maintenance company. And then the story kind of continues on from there.
Yeah. So you saw your dad kind of working in his own business, and that kind of gave you the entrepreneurial bug. You're like, this looks great. I want to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the entrepreneurial bug that I saw and witnessed was owner operator model. And to me, it looked really
Mm,
simple and easy. And my dad was always very much about like, I just want to keep it simple. I don't want it to be complex. I don't want a bunch of employees. I don't want a bunch of headaches. And that was kind of drilled into me my entire childhood as to the reason why. And made
salt
a
of the
lot of
earth
sense.
type people.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And he was, and the thing that you don't see, of course, is coming back home and doing the books and then going out and doing the bids and doing the estimates. And so it was much more
Yeah.
the time involved to just go out and do the thing. But it was
So his business was very much like owner operator plus like child labor for technicians,
exactly, yeah. Although I got
like
to
Vaughn
say,
and Sons window
it
cleaning.
got to the point where I was working for long enough, he started paying me on commission. And then we actually, I for a kid, I was making quite a bit of money. He was paying me probably more than he should, because he'd start paying me like 15%, 20%, and I just start working my brains out, like running to window to see how much money I could make in a day. And so we started like finishing the days early, and then we started making more, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So you kind of raised around this, father and son type business, and then you started your own business at 18. So how old were you when your father's health kind of started to decline?
Well, basically, I had my own window cleaning business, and at that point, I started to realize, man, I don't want to do window cleaning. My brother-in-law had a construction background, and he convinced me. We did a couple projects together. I was helping him. I started doing more property maintenance stuff, so kind of like spread out. And I started a business called Cutting Edge Interiors, and it was a construction company. And we did custom tile and hardwood floors and finished carpentry. And that was really where I had my first disaster as a business owner, right around the '07, '08 time period where the economy kind of collapsed. I was a terrible entrepreneur. I was very much running the business kind of similar to my dad in that instance, where I'd go out and I'd sell the job and then I'd do the job and I'd sell the job and do the job. And all of a sudden, selling a job became really hard. I had zero marketing concepts in my brain. I didn't even know how to advertise. It was all word of mouth referrals. And so we lost our house. We went on food stamps. I put my daughter's birth on a Nordstrom credit card, and I kind of saw you know, the bus factor, so to speak, of what happens when your business kind of collapses and when something happens to you at that instance. And I had to go out and get a real job. And it was probably one of the most depressing moments of my life because I failed in a major way. And then, stacking up on top of that, uh, I had to go get a job. And to me, I used to wear as such a badge of honor to be self-employed. But a lot of that kind of changed. So that kind of is leading me up to what happened with my dad. While I was working at that company, I was traveling like crazy. I only worked there for a couple of years. And then the travel became so bad that I quit because I never saw my kids. We just had our second. And then I quit. I got a graphic design company and decided, hey, I'm going to teach myself how to do graphic design and website design. And then 2012, that's what kind of brings us up to there. That's when my dad was actually diagnosed with heart disease. And he called me up and said, hey, Brandon, I was just told by the doctor that I can't work physically anymore. I can't go up any ladders. I can't lift any buckets. And I don't know what I'm going to do. I got to go in for heart surgery. And like I can't work for 6 weeks, period. And so at that point, he's like, can you come in and help? I was like, of course, no problem. I'll come dive in and help out in the business. And that was for me a time where I saw that bus factor component, where if he gets hit by a bus, metaphorically or literally, the business ceases to exist. He was faced with completely shutting down that business because he had zero employees and 100% of their income was dependent upon his physical ability to complete the work.
So that was the medical metaphorical bus that he got hit by.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
You know, a lot of
So,
the, I think just to pause you for a second, I think a lot of us as entrepreneurs, we just literally think of it as like, oh, if you got hit by a bus tomorrow, right? And you just kind of stop at that when really that's probably not a very good like analogy saying you got hit by the bus with how like infrequent that happens. But like if your health deteriorates and you're not able to go up ladders anymore, what's going to happen to your business? Like that, I think that's a
right.
lot more real for people. And obviously, what happened with you.
Yeah, and we've seen that a lot with a lot of the people that I've coached over the years where, they came to us because they had a health crisis that came up and all of a sudden they couldn't, work physically in the business. And all of a sudden, if you were to imagine, what if tomorrow you had to run your business with no arms and no legs? Like literally you're just sitting at your desk and that's all you could, what would you do? How would you solve the problem? You'd have to interview people, you'd have to have them come to your place, you'd have to figure out someone to go do sales, you'd have to figure out someone to, it would force you to have to think about putting all these things in place that actually is the same path that you need to take in order for your business to grow in general. So it's amazing when you kind of go through that thought experiment or experience it. In the case of one of my coaching clients, his business doubled in 1 year simply because he had a health emergency kind of take him out of the field and he was forced to hire a salesperson, forced to hire technicians, and his business doubled while he worked from home. And sometimes it wouldn't be nice if we could not have to be forced into that position, but we actually made the decision and the leap to do that ourselves.
Yeah. Well, you know, to grow a big business, you need to take some swings, right? And I think a lot of people are scared to take swings. 'Cause it is
Yeah.
scary, right? If to be forced or not forced, but to make that decision to take on some more risk when things may be comfortable, even if you are book a job, do a job cycle, you got to
Oh,
take a big swing to hit a home
terrifying.
run.
Yeah, it's terrifying. You have to give up control. You know that they're not going to do as good of a job as you when it comes to, the technical part of things. But most of the time, that's because you're a bad trainer. And that was the case with my dad. That was the case with me. That's a case with, I think, most business owners is they don't have the professional skill set of being able to teach somebody in a repeatable, scalable way. And so it just feels like a huge effort to have to go and physically be there present with someone and teach them a craft, teach them this stuff. And you kind of, I don't know if you're familiar with the 4 stages of competency, but that happens often in business owners where they come, they elevate to the highest position of unconscious competency and they don't know how to teach people in unconscious incompetency. And they take that kind of for granted. So it's hard to be able to scale up your business that way.
Yeah. Or the, no, I don't know if it's an adage yet, but people who are trying to scale their business when they say things, you said it yesterday on our group, I can't find good people. No one wants to work for me. Um, I think I think you're not looking to find experienced people who with the exact skill set that you need for your business, because if those people existed, you know, it, yeah, they just don't exist. So you're not in the
Right.
business of hiring painters, you're in the business of training painters,
Yeah,
developing
that's
painters.
right. Yeah, yeah, such a good way to put it. Absolutely. And when you kind of make that mental shift, everything changed. And that's kind of everything changed for me when I kind of made that mental shift in my business as well.
So now that your dad was diagnosed with heart disease, you came in to kind of work on the business. What were some of the first things that you did?
Some of the things that I kind of focused on and did was immediately I had to get the information out of my dad's head. So my dad could walk up to a house and kind of do this business where he just kind of looks at the house and is like, this house is going to cost $740 to wash the windows. And he would just like do a quick walk around. He wouldn't even count stuff. He would just look. I'm like, how in the world do you know to price that for $740? He's like, well, because it's going to take us 6.5 hours to do that or 7.5 hours to do that. And I like couldn't even comprehend. How do you know that? He's like, well, because
Because the
that's
way it is.
yeah, that's just the way it is, Brandon. So that my first thing that I had to do was reverse engineer my dad's brain. And I had to go visit like, a subsection of about 30 different houses that he had priced out And then I had to go and manually count every single window, find out what type of window it was, upper, lower, first story, second story, third story, screens, no screens, and then figure out an algorithm, which is, basically just how much per pane, how many dollars per pane. And then is there a multiplier for first story, second story, third story, or type of window? If it's a huge window, do we count that as, maybe 2 panes or 3 panes or 4 panes? And then kind of develop a pricing system. So that was like my first exercise as new owner of this business, was to try to figure out, how I could price jobs and not, be wildly off, which I was. I would guess how long it would take and I'd be way wrong. Um, and that was kind of my first my first thing that I had to do. Next was figure out a CRM, because my dad had a little black book with all literally every customer handwritten in there with, what the job was, how much it was. That was like the whole thing. So I digitized that. And I didn't even actually use a CRM. I used QuickBooks and Google Calendar, because he also had a paper calendar where every day he would, write in, and then he had, no joke, whiteout tape that he would put over the calendar and then like write in the new job if there's a cancellation. So like next step was migrating over to Google Calendar, which was a huge leap forward, in iPads. And then all of our contacts were in Google Contacts now. And then I had QuickBooks. And so then we had to like double data entry everything. And actually, I didn't move into a real CRM until we did over $1 million a year in business. We had that Google Calendar QuickBooks system for way longer than we should have.
Yep. So you came in and you're like basically got to get everything out of my dad's head. So you started working on it. Man, I just keep thinking like what a lucky guy to have a capable son to come in and actually do this. Most people don't have that luxury.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. It was, you know, he- for me, he's such an incredible dad and still is. And it wasn't even a thought, because he just always took care of other people. Was very lucky. I feel very lucky to have, a dad like him, who raised me how to work hard and take care of customers and serve others first. And so, just a very natural thing to do.
So what was that first year like? So you came in, started working on the systems. Kind of tell me about that first year operating a new business in a new way.
First year was basically, me on the tools. So I have no employees, and I have a handful of jobs that are kind of on the schedule. I bought the business from my dad. So I arranged the business was doing about $8,000 a month at the time. And I told him I'd buy it for $3,000 a month for life. That was the terms of the purchase. And that number was picked not because the business was worth that much. It was picked because that's how much extra income he needed to supplement his Social Security and be able to retire, which he needed to do. Um, Later on, I would hire him as an employee to help me with sales and other stuff when he kind of got back on his feet a little bit, but I paid him a salary on top of that. Uh, so it was me on the tools and by myself. I went out and hired my first employee. That employee didn't exactly work out. It was a little bit of a challenge that I had to kind of like, whoa, this is my first employees that I ever had. And,
2 feet and a heartbeat.
yeah, it was hard. It was hard to navigate through those things and train him. And then when they quit, I hired someone else. And eventually my goal was, okay, I'm going to have a truck. It's me and a helper. And then I want to make sure that helper becomes a lead. And then I'll hire an assistant for that lead. And then I'll go start truck number 2. And then I'll be a lead on that truck. And then I'll hire an assistant that'll then be a lead. And that's like how I visualized in my brain how I do that. So the first year, we tripled the business, and we got from 1 truck to 3 trucks. And that was huge. I started spending marketing. I started kind of figuring out some of that. I built a website. Business didn't have a website at all. And got a vanity phone number, and really tried to just kind of professionalize a lot of the aspects of the business.
What was the most challenging thing of that in that first year?
Most challenging thing was managing people and juggling all these other aspects of working on the business while I was working in the business full time. That was the most challenging thing, But the way I viewed it back then, and actually I had a coach that helped me with this, is that, there's two types of things that you can focus on. One, you can be a firefighter. You can go run around and you can, put out all these fires and you're constantly putting out fires. Or two, you could be a fire inspector and you could find out who's the arsonist that keeps setting these fires and let's try to go catch them. Like, let's figure out the root cause of this because that'll eventually stop the fires from happening all the time. And while you're the fire inspector, things are catching on fire and still on fire, but you have to take time to be that fire inspector because that will address the root source of the problem. Otherwise, you'll be in this cycle forever. And so that I kept like, I'd visually imagine taking off my fireman's helmet and putting on like my detective's hat and then sit down on the computer and be like, okay, how do I solve these problems from ever happening again? So anytime I was out in the field, I tried to do what I called a plus one, which is, okay, I'm in the field. What's one thing that I can do that's a work on the business while I'm here? Well, I can record my scripts that I say and I talk to customers and I can get that in an audio format. I can give my technicians a cell phone and I can have them record me videos showing how to do water stain removal on this project. And I don't even know what I'm going to do with it yet, but I could like dump it into a folder and then like I'll figure it out later. But I did a lot of that those first couple of years was just, anytime I was out in the field, get a review, figure out links, just something that was like a plus one that helped the business overall. And those little 1% changes, really made a huge difference over the course of
Hmm.
those couple of years.
What gave you the idea to build systems like that?
A coach. I had this
Okay.
amazing coach. Her name was Kedma O. And it was game changing for me. In fact, anytime if I was coming home to my wife and I was complaining about something that was going on in the business, she's like, "You should talk to Kedma." Like, you haven't talked to Kedma in a while, have you? And I'm like, "No, I haven't." And so I got into a habit of meeting with Kedma, once a month, and this is why I fell in love with coaching. The other thing too is I read the book The E-Myth by Michael Gerber was recommended to me in
Yeah.
2013.
Great
I
book.
read that book. That book changed my life as far as being an entrepreneur and thinking through things in that way. So that was a game changing component too. Those two things, coaching and education, changed everything. And then also, I joined my first industry association. And then I went out and started talking to people who had all the exact same problems I did. I was like, I'm not alone. I'm not crazy. And, those things all combined together was unbelievably motivating and fulfilling for me. And anyone that's watching this, if you don't belong to the PCA, uh, oh my gosh, go join. Go to those events. If you don't have a coach, join Painter Growth. Like, you have to get involved because when I did that, like literally I could track my net worth on a graph and I could show you the spike where it started, radically going up and to the right. And it's all related to coaching, education, community, those types of things.
Yeah. Now, as you were growing your business, because within about 6 years, you went from like small, like 5K per month to like 600K per month. What were some of the natural, uh, I don't know, like friction points in growth that like in between that, where you were a few crews, maybe 50K to that 600K? What were like those thresholds or those levels that you had to surpass along the way?
So it was about 500K that I took the cleaning company when up until when I
Okay.
sold that, just to clarify that part. But it was basically the break points that I hit were all related to when I started hiring non-revenue generating employees. And I put that kind of in quotes because any employee you hire is going to help you generate revenue, and any good employee is going to be a return on your investment and like actually make the business more money if you hire them right, if they're set up properly and they're have good training and coaching. Um, so for me, it was breakpoint number one was getting off the truck. When I got off the truck, everything changed for me in my business. Like, until that happened, I was working nights, I was working weekends. I was struggling to get everything in. I was really burnt out and fried. And usually, a lot of times when you're feeling that way, it's your business actually grabbing you saying, it's time to grow. It's time to bring in help. If you think about a business that is doing 500K a month, how many hours of human capital is required to be able to, generate that much revenue in a business? Well, when you look at all the technicians, how much they can do in a month, on one truck, and you divide that 500K into that, like, okay, we need a lot of technicians. We need salespeople to sell that much work. We need office teams to schedule that. We need production managers to make sure there's enough paint that's getting ordered in. Do we really think that our 40 hours a week is making that big of an impact? Not really. Like it's the amount that's required to do that requires a lot of people. So getting off of the tools allowed me to be able to focus on the 80% that is required to be able to grow a business. I'd argue that maybe growing a company, only 20% has to do with what it is that you do. 80% has to do with all the other stuff: the marketing, the scheduling, the software, the checklist, the systems, the SOPs, the sales processes, the scripts, inventory management, vehicle inventory management, dialing in load plans for all of your vehicles. Like, when I started just focusing on that, our business started kind of skyrocketing in growth. So that was like breakpoint number one, was, getting off the truck.
Yeah. And my quote is my number one quote is your ability to grow your business is limited only by your ability to delegate more and more complex tasks.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that 100%. And delegation is hard. Uh, there's delegation by abdication, which is, I hate this
Something.
thing. I don't want to do it. You know how to do it? Great. Your responsibility. And then you come back 2 months later and that department's an absolute dumpster fire. And you're like, well, what the heck? I delegated it. See, this is what happens when I delegate is, things all crumble. Like this always happens when I try to delegate stuff. This is why I need to be in control of everything. The fallacy is abdication. Like, to delegate properly, you have to, put a system together. You have to have accountability. You have to have KPIs on what that means for success. You have to inspect what you expect. And
Provide
so,
coaching and feedback.
yeah, you have to be able to have those things in there. So, that's, I'd say, a key part when you start bringing in, like for my next break point, that was hiring an office manager, hiring a production manager, hiring a salesperson. Those non-technician hires or non-painter hires were kind of critical for us to kind of break through each one of those next break points.
Now, so getting, I mean, it's running my business now. Like I know how, like it's stressful to want to bring on a non-revenue generating employee because it's like a direct hit to the bottom line and you don't necessarily get that back. Like when you're hiring a painter or a production, someone who does
Right.
production, like you're going to get that back right away. You hire a sales rep, you get that back right away. But
Right.
hiring like a GM or an office manager or like a bookkeeper or like someone, some other non-revenue generating, it's just like a hit to your bottom line. It's like, well, I'm not going to get that money back, but you're getting other things back, less tangible things, but it's very important. How do you deal with that kind of internal dialogue in this past business or in even in your current businesses to know that like, okay, this is worth the hit to the bottom line to hire this person on?
Well, there's a couple things that I've learned over the years to help ease that kind of sting and pain. I'll give a case in point of like a production manager. Some people think that they're going to hire a production manager and that production manager is just going to be sitting in the office, from day one, 5 days a week, just doing spreadsheets, counting up inventory, ordering things, at Sherwin-Williams. Like, when I bring on a production manager and it's like my first production manager ever, I kind of encourage people. And what I do is have it be a flex position and set the goal of, hey, you're going to be promoting yourself out of the field. But I need you to start in the field. Because for you to be able to tell all of your direct reports how to do it, you have to be the most compliant employee. You got to come in, you got to learn the craft, you got to learn what everyone's going through, you got to build rapport with the team. And then you're going to be wearing the PPE on every single day. You're going to be clocking in and clocking out, following the scripts, following all the checklists. so that when you tell people what to do, everyone will, acknowledge that, okay, when you're in the field, you did all these things and there won't be that friction that's there. And the nice part is, okay, maybe 4 days a week they're in the field, and one day a week they're now working on systems and getting things kind of managed. And then it transitions a little bit more slowly. So you still get that added benefit of them being in the field and generating some revenue and helping out with production. But that can kind of like slide into it. Same thing with like an office manager. I might have them, yes, be doing scheduling, but also doing rehash work and calling old customers and trying to pull sales out from older projects. That's a sales generating activity. So, there's things that you can do to kind of ease that burden of, you know, uh, actually adding to the bottom line versus subtracting from the bottom line. But once you get through that point, you start to notice some real big key shifts in your business. It frees you up, and that's the for me, the next big unlock mentally is, if I hire a production manager, how many hours is that going to create for me to focus on actually driving revenue growth and business growth? Okay, I'm spending, 20 hours a week answering phones and scheduling jobs or doing sales or ordering inventory and doing this. If I hire someone to come in, that frees me up 20 hours. How could I use that 20 hours to really help drive growth in the business? Well, maybe now I'm going to go whale fishing and I'm going to be going after big commercial contracts or government contracts, or I'm going to go to apartment associations and start getting involved more over there, or I'm going to go cold call, or I'm going to, whatever it is, rather than just immediately thinking when that person comes in, now all of a sudden I don't have to do anything. Like, what's the next thing that I'm going to do to continue driving growth into my
Hmm.
business?
I
And,
think one part of it that's like missed a little bit in that is like, okay, I'm spending 20 hours per week on this task. So when I hire this person, I'm going to get 20 hours per week.
yeah,
Like that's part of it. But the other part of it is like if someone was completely dedicated to this one thing and actually had 40 hours per week on this one thing, like what else would they be able to do? What are they going to be able to do that you're not doing right now?
yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. There's actually a really cool thing that I have that kind of shows like $10 an hour tasks versus $1,000 an hour tasks. And being able to kind of see like what's the difference between tasks that we do in our business and how can we, spend, more time in our business focusing on those $1,000 an hour tasks.
Yeah, I
Um,
have a I we talk about this too. I talk about tier one, two, three, and four tasks. So like 50, 500, 5,000, and 50,000.
oh, I love
We
it,
talk about
man.
that all the time.
Yeah, tell us more about that. What do those look like? How do you coach your people to go through those tasks?
Yeah, I mean, like a $50 an hour task is like your technician. You're painting, you're picking up paint, you're bookkeeping, you're running errands. You're like the things that you're doing in tier one are that you're not building your business. You're working in your business very much. And it's like you can typically delegate those $50 hour task things for a lot less than $50 an hour. Right. And even if
Right,
you're making $100 per hour painting or on the tools, or like that's besides the point.
right,
Right. It's a rounding error at this point.
right.
Feels productive. And some guys are like, I'm so busy all the time. Well, what are you doing? Well, I'm painting. Right. It's like, okay, well, like, and then you run the math. Okay, if you paint for 40 hours a week, you can make $2,000 a week. Right.
Right,
You're gonna make 100K per year, but you're selling your soul.
right.
Alternatively, if you hire two painters who are both productive, they'll replace that income.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like, there's the math. You have your time back with just two technicians. The next is $500 an hour tasks. These are typically revenue generation tasks, sales and estimates. So if the simple math is like, how's it $500? Okay, if your average job size is 3,000, which is low, and you have 50% gross margin, that's $1,500. And it takes you three estimates to book one job, that's $500 per estimate. It's
Mm-hmm.
$500 per hour.
Mm-hmm.
So don't fit in your estimates around your painting. Fit in your painting around your estimates. And then the tier three, the $5,000 hour task is very much recruiting, right? So if a painter can produce 150K per year in production, at a 33% profit margin, which is low, that's 50K per year of profit. And if it takes you 10 hours to recruit a new painter, it's $5,000 per hour.
Love it.
That's the way that we look at that. And then $50,000 per hour is like the things you're doing when you're working with your coach. You're interviewing a coach to figure out which coach to go with. You're actually on one of your coaching calls, looking at different revenue and strategic unlocks. You're working on your vision and your direction and some key hires. Like those are the $50,000 an hour tasks. But you can't just spend a whole week doing $50,000 an hour tasks. You have to earn them. You have to
Right.
earn the right to do those higher level tasks.
I love that, man. That's so, man, I hope that people that are listening understand that gold that you just dropped there, because it took me years and years and years to figure that out. And even then I have to constantly be reminding myself and asking myself, what level of task am I doing right now? What's the value of it? Um, one quick story, one of the guys that I was working with who owns a cleaning business up in Canada, in Kelowna, actually,
Love
he
Kelowna.
he ended up spending 6 hours one day to record videos for every single customer that got a quote. So it was just basically him talking into a camera saying, "Hey, my name is Brandon with Next Level. And this is what it's like when you hire us to do your project." And he like showed the process, and he showed all of his guys and gals, smiling, cleaning windows, washing down the property, what they take care of. They take care of the plants, they do this. And it was a quick, punchy video. And he shot most of it on his cell phone, and it was really, well done. We tracked the results on, and then now every quote that he gave, that video was like accompanied with that quote, as part of the email follow-up sequence. And he got a 7% increase in his closing ratio from just those videos alone. And when we tracked over the year how much that made, that was $170,000 worth of extra sales just from the 6 hours that it took him to make that video, one day, to go out and create it and edit it and put it together. So, when you start thinking about, like, if I can tweak my sales process and squeeze out an extra few percent on my closing ratio, or I can adjust my scripts when my office teams or myself is talking on the phone and convincing someone to let me come out to their house and provide them an estimate. If you can tweak those by a few percent, that can literally equal hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars worth of revenue increase to you for lifetime of your business. You know, Going out and painting for an hour, how much is that actually going to provide as a benefit, right?
But it
It's
feels productive. It
huge
feels
difference.
good to
It
be
does,
productive.
yeah. It's that instant gratification versus the long-term, long tail results. And I think, it's kind of similar to going to the gym and working out. You go work out for a month, and you maybe not notice that much of a difference, and it's just compounding results over time. And all of a sudden, a year later, you're like, my goodness, look at how much our business has grown.
Yeah. Yeah. You definitely need to look at it a longer time horizon. I think some of that also comes from like that Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Yeah.
right? When you're operating in that like I need food, I need shelter, I need to pay my bills, it's like very hard to think further out than tomorrow or next week or next month when you're like I need food today. So you're like if I paint this project, I'm going to get 2 grand. I'm going to take that 2 grand, I'm going to pay my landlord, I'm not going to get evicted.
Right.
Right. But then as you kind of start, getting a little bit more momentum in your business, you can now start thinking about next month. Okay, what's next month going to look like? And then and then next year and or next quarter and then next year. And then like ultimately, if you can be thinking 3 to 5 years out as a visionary, like that's ultimately where, many people want to be as entrepreneurs.
Have you read that book Clockwork by Mike Michalowicz? He actually takes Maslow's hierarchy of needs and he turns it into the business hierarchy of needs. And then that business hierarchy of needs, it talks about like sales and order and legacy and impact and all these things, as far as like what your business needs to kind of be focused on first, like sales, profit, and then it continues to move up from there. Um, and it's a good little roadmap for kind of figuring out what should I work on next in my business.
Yep.
Oh no, it's called Fix This Next. It's not Clockwork. It's Fix This Next by Mike
Fix this
Michalowicz.
next. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get, I got to reread E-Myth now that you mentioned that. I wrote that down. So I'll check that one out as well. Um, was it you? I think this is just a quick aside. I think that you recommended
Dream Manager.
Dream Manager. Okay, yeah, I went to try to get that today.
Yeah, that's such
Yeah,
a
okay.
sick book. It's such a fun read. It
Yeah.
follows a janitorial company that had a 400% turnover year over year in their company. and
Wow.
it's like written in like a story format. So
Okay.
it's like all the characters are talking. It's a totally unique read, and it's actually pretty quick, and you're like really invested in what's going on with this company. And
Kind of like the 1 Minute Manager is that type of read.
yeah,
You ever heard that
yeah,
one? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's really good. It's solid.
Now, I don't want to like shorten the story or anything like that, but just with time in mind, because we got about 20 minutes left.
Yeah,
So you ended up scaling this company to 500K and then exiting it, and let's just wrap a bow on that.
yeah,
And then after COVID, you decided, hey, let's start a coatings company,
yeah.
floor coatings company.
Yes,
What what was your initial vision? So Wise Coatings,
yeah.
you scaled it from 0 to 1.5 million per month within 3 years.
Hmm.
What were some of the biggest lessons that you took from your window cleaning company that allowed you to scale Wise that quickly and that big?
Well, it started with a thesis and basically a video project that I envisioned, which was, what if I started a brand new business from zero? And actually, Mike, I think you should do this too. I think it would be sick. Maybe we could work on it together. What if I started a brand new business from zero and documented from scratch how to build it to seven-figure company without doing any work in the field, without like literally from day one, not doing a single job, not selling a single job either, not talking to customers, and not answering any phone calls. So that requires hiring from day one. So from day one, I hired 3 people and then started ramping up my marketing spend. And then I just focused on building systems, putting together the business listings, working on the branding, and then managing and running all of the marketing stuff. And so for that, that was the big thing that we decided to kind of focus on to be able to kind of scale this business up. And it was an amazing project. We went from zero to $100,000 a month in 4 months. So month four, we hit 100K in revenue for just that month, and then we hit our seven figures the first year, cumulatively, not seven figures in a month. And then we decided to expand out, and we started launching additional locations all over the country. I brought
As a
on
franchise model.
Correct.
Yeah.
I brought on a partner, Whitney, who has experience in doing this. And this is the other big thing that I learned over the years is it's about the who, it's not about the how. I've never launched a franchise company before. I have no idea how to do it. So I brought in someone way smarter than me to come in and do that part of it. And I sold them on kind of the vision. I had a really solid model. And when I built the business, I actually wasn't anticipating franchising it at all. That kind of came about organically. I just mostly just did it for this purpose of, hey, I want to create this business and just have a little money printing machine over here and just own it and have people that run it, and then it kind of continued to scale. So then we now have ramped up to about 35 locations across the country, and we're probably adding on another 15 for the rest of this year.
Yeah. And what do you think you would have been able to do in terms of scaling that business if you had followed it the previous way where you're the one on the tools and you kind of taken it step by step like that?
Well, I'm sorry, what'd you ask?
If you would have taken Wise Codings and started it the same way that you
Mhm.
approach the cleaning company, right? Where you're just like going step by step, where do you
it,
think
it
it would have ended up?
I mean, well, think about it from a time perspective. If I started from day one, I go out and I sell my first job. Now I have to do the job. Okay, I just lost an entire day of just on the tools grinding. And then I go sell my next job, which would be in the evening. And then I would go and do that job the next day. And so my time would be reduced of how much I spend, by an unbelievable amount. So that first 40 hours of me starting that, uh, I would be working 40 hours just on the tools. And then I'd need to squeeze in another, 10 to 15 hours to be able to work on sales, marketing, systems, everything else. What I chose to do was I'm just going to work on these 10 to 15 hours a week, and not do any of this stuff over here, just focus on here. And then that enabled us to scale up to 2 trucks, within 2 months, and then, continue to just kind of grow from there. So it would have taken probably very similar to the amount of years that it took me with All Clean to be able to scale that up,
Yeah.
because I was the bottleneck in that situation. I
And so
held the
you
business
chose to
back.
go for people first instead of going and trying to just hustle it your way. And obviously that made you, I don't know if that made you, but because of a lot of things, decisions that you've made, you're very passionate about finding the right people, putting
Yes.
the right people on the bus, if you will.
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. And so focusing in that area, like for me now, the only thing that I focus on as an entrepreneur is recruiting talent. That's it. I don't know. I've never built a software company before. Yet I launched a software company. And so I need to go find the best CTO and the best COO from day one and bring them into the business and sell them on the vision. And then that's what I did. And we built one of the best recruiting platform software, fastest, and have really quick growth because my mindset now is just investor. How do I find really good people? And it's less about, well, how do I do this? How do I write code? How do I go and maybe I should take some lessons and figure out how to write code and develop it? It's like, no, it's as silly. I'm never going to be as good as someone else
Yeah.
who's done that for years and years and
You don't need
years.
to go take an Udemy course on how to write JavaScript.
No. Now I may be doing that still, just for fun and just wanting to kind of learn because I find it is important to learn, to know enough to be dangerous so that
Yep.
you don't get taken advantage of. But I'm never going to match the expertise of someone that's been doing this for way longer. So if you know
Yep.
how to take your painting company from 1 million to 10 million, go find someone who's done that before for another company as an employee and they've seen the entire journey and they've seen what's involved and have them come in and help you with that playbook.
Yep. And that's huge. That's you can't do it yourself. There's just no way.
Right.
And I think early on you do it yourself because you don't have any capital. You don't have an extra $100,000 per year to hire on this C-suite executive. So you
Yeah.
exchange your time for that money early on. But as you grow and you get more capital and more ability to hire these better people, that just shortens your like I'm sure if you were to do it again and start like a Wise Codings 2.0 in a different industry, you would do it twice as fast as you grew Wise.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I will just kind of say is we live very, very simply. We drive used vehicles. We have no debt. I don't have a bunch of toys, and we can live very, very frugally. And because of that, and the lifestyle that we choose to live, we don't need to pull out as much cash out of a business. So we can allow that to self fund and continually kind of help grow that business. And I think a lot of people, don't do that in their company. As soon as they get like their first, oh my gosh, look at all the cash we have in the bank account. I want to go buy a brand new $70,000 truck, $80,000 truck. Like, okay, now you have these debt payments and you live so extended. They have these beautiful homes and all this stuff. You haven't deserved that yet. You're up to your eyeballs in debt. You have all these payments and you have to pull out every single penny out of the business. Yeah, no wonder you always default back to, well, I got to go out in the field and do this because I need to make more money to pay my bills.
Yeah.
Like Tommy Mello lived in an apartment and drove a 20-year-old truck and ate very, very simply for years. And he grew his, garage floor or garage door company from, 0 to $200 million a year in revenue. And he didn't actually go out and buy something nice until he started exiting the business and started pulling some chips off the table. So don't forget that the value that your business contains is worth millions upon millions of dollars. It's just in a bank account you can't touch. So it's not like
Yeah.
you're not making money when you grow your business. You're building equity value inside of your business. You just can't touch it yet.
Yeah. Can't touch this. Why the Wise MC Hammer.
Yeah, I can't touch this.
So you went off to start Hirebus, and what is the problem that Hirebus sets to solve?
Hiring people, recruiting people without all the pain and suffering involved in posting job ads, screening people. We basically, with the advent of AI, said, hey, let's build a tool where AI will automatically write all your job ads, post all your job ads, auto nurture all of your candidates, pull them through. And then kind of our secret sauce is something called the right seat assessment. It's where we ask one single question to a business, to a potential candidate. And when they answer that question, they'll tell us on the back end a scale of 1 to 10 how well they'll fit for that specific position, whether it's a technician, production manager, office manager, salesperson, literally any position in your company. We have benchmarks built out, and it's based on behavioral science because this test has been administered um, like almost 2 million times. It's been around for a while, and we found this company partnered up with them and bought their technology, and it's been a total game changer for the trades. And normally, access to this type of assessment and tools costs thousands of dollars a month. We were able to take it and package it up in a way where it's really affordable for a small business owner. So it's a lot of the same AI tools and behavioral assessments that, large enterprise companies have and use, but now it's available to the little guy and,
Yeah.
someone who just wants to find a good technician.
Why do you feel these behavioral traits are important when selecting someone for a particular role?
Because technical skills aren't as important as soft skills. And that's kind of my philosophy, and the philosophy I've seen of all the successful companies out there is that if you have a salesperson who is not aggressive, who does not have high criticality, who doesn't have high creativity, who doesn't have good proactivity, and those behaviors aren't evident in them, they're going to struggle as a salesperson. So like our benchmark for salesperson, for instance, measures these 5 different behaviors and then maps them out and will tell you on a scale of 1 to 10 how well they fit. If you don't have a salesperson that has proactive enough to go make those dials, or aggressive enough to go get to the finish line, or high enough criticality where when someone says, hey, this job is gonna, I need to get a discount, and then I'll give you all this work. Like they're critical enough to say, yeah, no, that's not going to work out. We're not going to do that. We're going to push back. Those behaviors are actually what drive people to be successful in those different positions.
Hmm. That's interesting. So so you have this right seat assessment and kind of the way people can kind of learn a little about it or test it out themselves is they can go and take this right seat assessment for free.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone that wants to listen and see what the single question assessment is, we have a link that I think that you guys have that you can give out that, will enable them to go out, take the right seat assessment, see their behavioral blueprint. And then, we can show them a
It's just
demo
the
of
same link we had
how it
before,
works.
hirebus.com slash
Yeah. The one
painter
we used
growth.
yesterday.
Okay,
Yep,
we'll use
exactly.
that one.
And then anyone, and you had asked about that core values worksheet that we have.
Yeah.
We can just email that directly to anyone that fills out that assessment.
Okay. Can you send that directly to me as well so I can send it to the clients from yesterday's call?
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds good. I'll do that.
Okay. Cool. And I guess if your business isn't in a place where you're ready to hire yet and you're still on the ground floor and you're looking for that, sorry, what was your coach's name?
Kedma.
Edma. You're looking for your
Kedma.
Edma. Kedma.
Kedma. Kedma. Kedma. Yeah.
Yeah.
Her first name is Kedma. Kedma. Her last name is Ough.
Oh,
So her, yeah. So her Ko is
okay.
her, is kind of
Nice.
her nickname she has. But
Well, if
um,
anyone's looking for their Kedma and you're not quite ready to hire yet, I think that's where we can really hire in and fill that gap and help you get those systems and get that direction and get that like kindling momentum going in order for you to get in that position where you're ready to hire.
yeah. Yeah, and I've heard so many great things about what you guys are doing over there. If you don't have a coach right now, for those that are watching this and listening to this, if you don't have a coach, go get yourself a coach. For me, I started to realize that, and I still have a coach to this day. I work with a coach. He's extremely expensive, but he pushes me outside of my comfort zone, and I've noticed a direct correlation for my net worth increasing to how much I pay for coaching. It's bizarre, but it's literally a line item by line item thing, because the more you pay, the more you pay attention.
Yep.
And people are like, oh, I want a free coaching group. Those don't work, period. They just do not work because you don't have anything at stake. If when I work out at with a personal trainer at a gym, and I know I'm going to lose $50, $80 if I don't meet him at the gym, uh, I'll probably just sleep in. but that motivates me to get up and go and actually execute, is because I know I have something to lose if I don't execute. So that accountability measure of that is so huge. And
Cash output, like
I
just
think,
pure cash output, it helps.
yeah, it does 100%. And I've heard tons of great things about what you guys are doing, which is why I'm so excited to work with you on some of these projects together. Is
Yeah,
because,
I appreciate it.
yeah,
I mean, I had one little anecdote. Back in my early 20s, I always wanted to get like in really good shape, and I was really into fitness and could never dial in my nutrition. So I decided to hire this nutrition coach. And I was pretty young, but I was going to pay like $250 a month for this nutrition coach. And what it ended up being is him sending like a Google form and like texting me like once a week, just to, like, hey, fill
yeah.
out your macros, put in my fitness pal, like stick to these macros. And within 3 months, like I kid you not, I got shredded. I was like leaner and stronger than I'd ever been in my life, and I was injury free, and like I was all this like, this is great. But I had the spreadsheets. I know how to follow these spreadsheets now, right? So I'm like, hey, Mark, I don't need you anymore. I got yours. Like I didn't tell him that, but I'm like, I secretly made a copy of all of his spreadsheets and stuff.
I already
Anyway,
know the punchline of what's going to happen.
yeah, it did. I fell off the train. Did not follow it. I didn't have someone texting me like the night after I had a couple of beers, like, "Hey, Mike, you had 3 beers last night. You shouldn't have done that. That wasn't like,
Right.
I didn't have that accountability, and I wasn't paying
Right.
for it, and so of course I fell off.
Yeah.
But yeah, that accountability and the support is so important for anything that you want to do well at and be exceptional at.
Yeah. The tough part about being the boss is you're the boss. All your employees have you as their accountability partner. Like if they don't show up to work, you text them like, what the heck? Why are you not there? Who's your person doing that? When you're at home and you're scrolling through Facebook and you know that you've wasted hours not getting something done, like that accountability to just execute and get something done is everything. And we all need it. Anyone who says they don't need it, they're lying to themselves, or they've never really truly experienced true accountability.
Yeah,
Because every human being on the planet needs accountability.
100%. Well, that was awesome, man. If I guess I encourage anyone who wants to see their right fit assessment, hit that link. We'll share it in the description below this as well. I put it in the comments on the live stream, and yeah, man, that was a great conversation. I enjoyed that today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I appreciate that. And then sometime soon we'll have to have a real fireside chat where we're in the same room together and have a nice crackling fire. That's what I was told
Yeah.
was going to happen. So
Okay. Well, I have an idea actually coming up in October. Maybe you can hop in. I'll let you know offline what
that'll
that's
be
all about.
fun. Cool, man. Sounds good. Thanks for having me. Thank you guys for tuning in too.
See you, Brandon. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for listening to the Painter Growth Podcast. If you want to grow your painting business, go to www.paintergrowth.com or click on the top link in the description. Talk soon.